best way to predict the future is to create it. And that's a quote by Peter Drucker. Time is precious, time is money, and this is a time for Money Talk on Atlantic Television Network. Good day, viewers, and welcome to a fresh episode of ATN Business on Atlantic Television Network, right here in the city of Port Harcourt. This is a network's medium of bringing the happenings in the economic sector of the society to our discerning viewers. This program is aimed at bringing to the doorstep of viewers the business, financial and economic activities from all strata of society. Its delivery is accentuated through the various stock exchanges across the world, laced with news about government economic activities, private sector business activities, expert opinions, stakeholders analysis, and correspondence reports. Headlines. Africa must end goods importation, Tinubu. Unemployment will increase small business owners. CBN approves BDCs at 1,590 naira per dollar. Stocks close higher after Beijing affirms stimulus measures. By the end of the show, you can be rest assured of being informed accurately of financial activities around the world. I am your host, Wendy Aguma. We'll take a short break, and when we return, we'll reel out the details. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. Now let's go into market reports, local and international business news for today. President Bola Tinubu says extracting raw materials in Africa without processing locally is keeping the continent poor and underdeveloped. He warned against the dire consequences of Africa's long-standing profile as a supplier of raw materials to countries of other continents, saying the position had added to the continent's misery. Tinubu made this observation while delivering his keynote address during the Africa Minerals Strategy Group meeting on the sidelines of the ongoing 79th session of the United Nations General Assembly in New York, United States. Represented by the Vice President Kashim Shettima, Tinubu argued that while Africa holds a significant portion of the world's mineral reserves, including 92% of global platinum, 56% of cobalt, and 54% of manganese, these resources have been primarily extracted and exported to foreign countries for refining and manufacturing, and stressed an urgent need for the continent to break free from this dependency, stating that the extraction of raw materials without local processing only prolonged its economic challenges. The Senior Special Assistant to the Vice President on Media and Communications, Stanley Nkwocha, in a statement he signed titled President Tinubu, Africa's role as raw mineral suppliers solidifying its misery, said a situation in which the raw minerals are extracted from our countries, exported, refined and sold to us as finished products merely consolidates the foundations of the misery and pushes further down the depths of underdevelopment. He called on African nations to adopt a new agenda that prioritizes local value addition, which it sees as essential to industrializing the continent and providing sustainable economic growth. Federal Executive Council is proposing an amendment to the National Identity Management Commission Act No. 23/2007 to allow for foreigners living in the country to be issued the National Identification Number. The FEC also proposed the Economic Civilization Bill to pave the way for the taxing of foreigners living and working in Nigeria, and the two proposed legislations are aimed to expand the scope of the registrable persons to include foreign individuals with the taxable presence or taxable source of income in Nigeria for transactions which are relevant for tax administration and for related matters. The government proposes a new paragraph of Section 16 which leads any person, whether or not he is a citizen of Nigeria, who is deemed to be resident or otherwise subject to tax in Nigeria under any legislation in force in Nigeria, and if passed into law, the new bill that would see expatriates and income-earning immigrants being taxed. The Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, revealed this while briefing State House correspondents at the Asirok Villa, Abuja, said if the National Assembly passes that bill, it provides that everybody living in Nigeria, including foreigners, will now be registered and given NIN. The presidential aide announced a third bill seeking to amend the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency Act number 17/2007 to provide for the payment of fees and other charges in Naira to improve the ease of doing business and for related matters. Federal government has sent to the National Assembly Economic Stabilization Bill to strengthen Naira against dollar. The bill aims to guide the operations of the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency and the Nigerian Port Authority towards ensuring that all accrued revenues are collected in Naira. Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, said the bill will enable NIMASA and the Nigerian Port Authority to collect fees, charges, levies and fines in Naira at the applicable exchange rate, rather than solely in dollars, adding that the move was part of the government's effort to strengthen the national currency and prevent dollarization of the economy. He said the revised bill seeks to provide all Nigerians, including foreigners earning income in the country, with a registered national identification number to enable them enlisted in Nigeria's tax structure, ultimately shoring up the nation's revenue base. The Federal Executive Council has already approved the Economic Stabilization Bill towards enhancing Nigeria's economic stability and growth. Minister of Maritime and Blue Economy, Adeboyega Oyetola, says the federal government will implement policies and programs to ensure the safety and security of the country's waterways. According to a statement by the minister's spokesman, Ismail Omipidan, Oyetola, who disclosed this ahead of the World Maritime Day in Lagos, described the theme as a fitting narrative of President Bola Tinubu's aspiration to develop Nigeria into a leading maritime hub in Africa, adding that the first major step by the president in navigating the future for Nigeria was the creation of the Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy, while following it up with other policies and programs that would ensure the safety of the country's waterways. He said Nigeria had reasons to celebrate, expressing the country's commitment to sustaining the gains of the Deep Blue project to ensure maximum security of the country's maritime domain, adding that enhanced security is responsible for the record of zero piracy by Nigeria in the last 24 months. He said the theme for the 2024 World Maritime Day reflected the International Maritime Organization's effort at enhancing maritime safety and security in line with the protection, and mentioned the efforts of the ministry to ensure that the nation's ports compete favorably with other ports across the globe. The Osun State former governor said the vessels were already supporting port security patrol and surveillance and were helping to deliver efficient pilotage and towage services to help the growing cargo evacuation needs of the Lekki Maritime Corridor, while the minister revealed that those were part of steps towards securing the ports, enhancing their efficiency and strengthening Nigeria's position as a leading maritime nation in the region. President of the Petroleum and National Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, Festus Osifo, has stated that indigenous oil companies do not have the financial strength to fund the assets they acquired from the investing international oil companies. He disclosed these in Lagos while presenting the association's communique recommendations from the last energy summit and acknowledging divestments would boost local capacity in the petroleum sector and urge regulators to carry the union along in any divestment process. According to CIFO, some companies bought the asset but could not manage them, leading to job losses, adding that most of the IOCs had strong technical and financial partners all around the world, giving them easy access to funds. According to CIFO, the union supports the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission's efforts in running a check on prospective investors and confirmed that though local companies like First E&P and Seplat Energy were doing well, there were very few because a lot of them had not done well. Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Heineken Lebobiri, has reaffirmed the ministry's commitment to a strong partnership with Nigerian Institution of Petroleum Engineers to advance the oil and gas industry through capacity building. Lebobiri, while receiving the delegation of the institution led by its national chairman, Priska Kanebi, in his office in Abuja recently, reiterated the ministry's readiness to collaborate with NIPET in key areas, including capacity building in universities and enhancing professional practices to boost and sustain oil production in Nigeria. At the meeting, the national chairman of NIPET formally invited the minister to the institution's third annual conference to be held at the Abuja Continental Hotel on October 31st and November. Its goals, which include fostering collaboration between industry and academia in petroleum engineering, acting as a watchdog for educational and professional practices, and encouraging major industry operators to sponsor training equipment and laboratories at universities. Kanebi highlighted NIPET's initiative to facilitate sabbaticals for academic petroleum engineers with leading Nigerian exploration and production companies, enabling them to provide fresh insight into operational challenges. Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Nigeria LNG, Philip Meshibila, is calling for the supply of more liquefied petroleum gas into the domestic market to stop unclean cooking from spreading. According to a statement, Meshibila spoke at a global leadership panel on energy inclusion at the Georgia R. Brown Convention Center, Houston, Texas, United States, said NLNG currently supplies almost 40% of Nigeria's LPG demand in country and delivering over 400,000 tons. The MD NLNG reiterated that developing nations like Nigeria would need huge investment in infrastructure development to drive their energy transition efficiently and equitably, and decried the quality of infrastructure like insufficient pipelines, storage and regasification facilities, high cost of importation, LNG, as well as energy poverty like limited access to affordable energy are key issues that must be addressed. He affirmed that by addressing these challenges and leveraging on solutions, emerging economies can widen access to natural gas and support a lower carbon energy transition and energy inclusion, and stressed that global energy policy makers must create energy equity and inclusion to ensure that the average African woman's daily energy needs are met. He also said the Nigerian government was doing all it could to meet the energy needs of its growing population, using natural gas as its transition fuel. Coalition for Change in Nigeria has called for immediate action from the federal government and the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited to address three critical issues affecting the nation's oil and gas sector. The coalition demanded an urgent explanation for the sustained high fuel prices despite deregulation, an immediate probe into the expenditures on local refineries, particularly the Port Harcourt refinery, and full disclosure of the financial and contractual details of the Ajaokuta-Kaduna-Kano gas pipeline project. Speaking at a briefing, convener Dr. Emmanuel Agabi stressed the need for transparency and accountability in the management of Nigeria's natural resources, and also rejected any attempt to monopolize refining operations and advocates for diversifying refining capacities through modular refineries, which would create jobs, reduce fuel costs, and provide a stable energy supply. Agabi also demanded a public inquiry into the billions of naira invested in local refineries, particularly the Port Harcourt refinery, to hold accountable those responsible for any mismanagement of funds, adding that any attempt to monopolize refining operations will be rejected, adding that the coalition advocates for diversifying refining capacities through modular refineries. Nigerian Gas Association has called on the Nigerian government to implement a transportation policy mandating the use of gas-powered vehicles for public transportation and government activities. The President, Ukachukwu Wokedi, who disclosed this call in a statement, said the formal adoption of such a policy would promote cleaner energy sources aligned with the sustainability goals of the government, help reduce the nation's reliance on petrol and diesel, and attract the necessary investments in downstream infrastructure that will create jobs and domesticate technology while facilitating successful implementation. The NGA President commended the government's incremental adoption of compressed natural gas for transportation, emphasizing the importance of sustaining the momentum, and acknowledged the efforts of the presidential compressed natural gas initiative in deploying CNG conversion kits, and urged the PCNGI to improve its gains in advancing the NGA. Also congratulated Greenville LNG on completing its second test drive of LNG-powered trains, saying it marks another pivotal milestone in Nigeria's transition to more sustainable energy solutions. Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission says the 2024 oil bid is progressing according to plan. The NUPRC Chief Executive Benga Komolafe, who disclosed this after an event in Lagos recently, said the exercise was progressing smoothly in line with the schedule of the Commission and expressed happiness over the bid round. During the pre-bid conference held recently in Lagos, it was announced that President Bola Tinubu has reduced the signature bonus payable by successful bidders from around $200 million to $10 million. According to Komolafe, the NUPRC surveyed what other countries like Brazil demand as signature bonuses from would-be investors and discovered the need to slash that of Nigeria, adding that the heavy signature bonus is a front entry barrier in the Nigerian oil sector. The NUPRC Assistant Director, Multi-Client Surveys and Regional Studies, Ahmed Abdullahi, disclosed that interested bidding organizations must possess a financial capacity of about $200 million for deep offshore and $150 million for shallow water and onshore. Federal government, through the National Oil Spill Detection and Response Agency, in partnership with the Stakeholder Democracy Network, has developed a satellite-based methane tracker to tackle all oil spillage in Nigeria. The team lead for SDN, an international non-governmental organization, Adam Hill, who disclosed this in Abuja during a visit to NOSDRA's headquarters, said the satellite-based technology is an emerging initiative used to identify hotspots where methane is emerging. He said the development will enable regulators like National Oil Spill Detection and Response Agency and other agencies to cooperate with oil and gas companies to respond to emissions, fix the problem, and reduce the adverse impact on the environment, adding that methane is an important gas in terms of climate change and several times worse than carbon dioxide. But if tackled, there are better chances of reaching long-term climate goals. On his part, the Director General and Chief Executive Officer of the National Oil Spill Detection and Response Agency, Chukwuemeka Woke, said the agency is keen on promoting transparency and accountability in the oil industry, which made it to support initiatives in the development of the Nigerian Oil Spill Monitor, adding that the prototype emitting tracker that has been developed would generate input to Nigerian carbon emission submission through the Department of Climate Change. National Agency for Science and Engineering Infrastructure has increased the use of homegrown technologies to drive sustainable development in Nigeria. Nasani, who disclosed these at the ongoing 19th Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry International Trade Fair in the Federal Capital Territory. The agency's Director of Information, Olusegun Ayoyinikan, said Nasani is committed to transforming Nigeria's economy through local technological advancements. He said the participation of Nigerians in the trade fair aligns with Nasani's mandate to foster industrialization and promote the renewed hope agenda of President Bola Tinubu, adding that Nasani is the only federal agency dedicated to research and development, production, and manufacturing of essential technologies, and also create greater awareness of its offerings and increase support for local products. Ayoyinikan encouraged patriotism in supporting local products, saying we must prioritize our homegrown technologies. By choosing local solutions, we are not only investing in our economy, but also empowering the workforce. When we rely on imports, we stifle our potential for innovation and economic activities. He also said Nasani is determined to elevate Nigeria's technological landscape by making equipment and technologies accessible to drive economic development and innovation. Small business owners have described the new Central Bank of Nigeria monetary policy rates as unfortunate and capable of further contracting businesses contracts to downsize, which could lead to loss of jobs. The CBN Governor Olayemi Cardoso, who disclosed these at the end of the 154th Monetary Policy Committee meeting in Abuja, said the decision to further hike the rates that was of 11 of the 12-member Monetary Policy Committee present at the meeting, adding that the MPR set by the MPC of the CBN is a benchmark of the interest rate charged by banks to their customers. Meanwhile, at the backdrop of sustained increases in the adoption of electronic payment system, the Nigeria Interbank Settlement System says instant payment increased to 89.50 trillion naira in July 2024. According to data obtained from Nigeria Interbank Settlement System, the figure represented 12.45% of 9.91 trillion naira increase compared to the 79.5 trillion naira recorded in June, and an 89% year-on-year increase compared to the 47.38 trillion naira recorded in July 2023. It enables financial institutions to provide online real-time funds transfer services to customers through all available electronic channels, while the instant payments recorded in July brought the value of the total electronic transactions in the first half of 2024 to 566.39 trillion naira. In 2023, Nigeria recorded 600 trillion naira in electronic transactions, while the data showed that the value of cashless transactions surged to 238.61 trillion naira in the month under review, representing a significant increase of 4.6% of 10.49 trillion naira compared to the 228.11 trillion naira recorded in June. The data also showed 2.56 billion transactions were done through the use of electronic payment channels in July, and mobile money operators such as OPay, PalmPay, MoneyPoint, and Kuda recorded 6.23 trillion naira transactions value in July. Senate bypasses 288 billion naira for second reading. Senators passed for second reading a 288 billion naira supplementary budget for the Federal Capital Territory Administration. This fresh budget comes after the Senate passed a sum of 98.5 billion naira supplementary budget for the FCT in June. The Senate leader, Opeyemi Bamidele, in his lead debate, said the supplementary appropriation became necessary to accommodate additional inflows from internally generated revenues and other revenues of the Federal Capital Territory Administration. The passage of the budget followed a correspondence from President Bola Tinubu dated September 19, 2024, addressed to the National Assembly, and the supplementary budget for the FCTA was pursuant to the provision of the 1999 Constitution as amended for consideration and passage by the Senate. Defense Minister Mohammed Badaru Abubakar and Nigerian Armed Forces led by Christopher Musa, the Chief of Defense Staff, have reintegrated the Republic of Niger into multinational joint task force. Speaking through Ibrahim Kana, the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Defense, at a press briefing in Abuja, said the minister affirms that Niger's return to the MNJTF would strengthen efforts to end insurgency in the region. The development took place during the briefing that launched activities leading up to the 2025 Armed Forces Remembrance Day celebrations, adding that Niger's rejoining the MNJTF will significantly enhance border security between Nigeria and its northern region, contributing to the overall effectiveness of the regional task force. The minister said security incidents across Nigeria have been reduced by approximately 65%, attributing the progress to renewed efforts by the armed forces, and also reassured Nigerians that the military remains committed to reducing security breaches to a minimal level. The MNJTF, composed of military forces from Nigeria, Niger, Chad, Cameroon and Benin, is tasked with tackling the insurgency threat posed by Boko Haram and other extremist groups in the Lake Chad region, while the minister also said reintegration of Niger is seen as a key move in ensuring a more coordinated response to the threats. United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization has estimated that crops and food produce destroyed by the heavy floods that submerged parts of Nigeria in recent months would have fed 8.5 million people for 5 months. It said the flood, which occurred at the onset of the harvest season, has deepened the food crisis and hunger. The agency disclosed this in response to inquiries by Bloomberg that providing an accurate estimate of the flood's devastating impact remains challenging, adding that floods that have submerged parts of Nigeria at the onset of the harvest season have destroyed crops that would have fed 8.5 million people for 6 months. While the exact loss has not yet been possible,